Dan and Amy, it is Civics Day at AM 560 on Chicago's Morning Answer because of Richard Dreyfuss.
Right.
And his impassioned defense of civics and our founding documents and our first principles. And so before we get to Scott here, let's go to Craig and McHenry real quick. Hey, Craig, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning. Just wanted to kind of let you know that, Amy, first of all, I would not let my son do that unchallenged in some way. I found out if he had to pick from a list of topics.
You're talking about Amy's son doing a presentation in support of Planned Parenthood and no opposition being allowed. Right.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, was it given to him, or was there a list that they had to pick from? I'd start digging. I'm the kind of father who's going to fight back against all of this. My son is actually going to do an end-of-the-year project in one of his classes, and it's BLM and other social justice warrior lies and propaganda. And when he presented that option to his teacher got real nervous.
Yeah,
really nervous.
I bet.
She's like, well, you're going to be careful about this, right? You're going to be sensitive to all of this, right? And he's like, there's no sensitivity based around the truth. I mean, you're being insensitive to people by not being honest with them.
Thanks for the.
Thanks. He's excited about it, and actually, he's going to wind up, and it's a shame. He's going to wind up embarrassing his teacher to some degree because she's been kind of putting this stuff out there as well. And when he starts presenting the facts and the truth behind it, she's not going to look very credible at that point. So, but it was her choice to do that. She had,
Thanks for
made that choice.
Thanks for the call, Craig. Appreciate it. Now,
and real quickly, Peyton, he had to choose something topical, something that was
sure.
in the news.
And did his teacher at that school for Catholic bigots, did she say, now be sensitive to pro-lifers? Be sensitive, be careful on the topic? No.
And it was a male teacher.
No. Well, that's why I said she.
Hey.
Okay. Just curious. Yeah. Okay. Blaine, teacher.
He interviewed my friends.
That's going in your permanent file. All right. Switching gears, we got to talk about how the market's reacting to the Trump tax plan because I need to find out how my investments are doing so that I can.
Oh, okay. This is all about Dan. Enough about Dan. What do you think of Dan?
I have a plan to move to the Isle of Man by 2019, and I want to see how that's proceeding. And for more on this, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Scott Shellady, Scott the Cow Guy, Fox Business News contributor. Scott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Good morning.
So the market response to the broad outlines of what Trump proposed on taxes, what was it?
Tepid. I would say.
Why? Why tepid? These are big. These are massive cuts. Why tepid?
Because he just really he outlined what he was talking about when he was trying to get elected, number one. Number two, he didn't give the market the detail it wanted. So I've read a lot of research since he spoke. Everything that comes across the desk says it's going to add between $2.5 trillion and up to $9 trillion to the debt. However, there are those of the Laffer school that believe that it's going to be an even bigger boom or boost to the economy. But at the end of the day, I guess a lot of people think that we're probably not going to be able to grow ourselves out of this problem, regardless of the cuts and regardless of the details.
Well, $9 trillion. How do you come up with that number? Because that's a big, anywhere between $2.5 to $9 trillion.
$2.5 to $9 trillion, depending on what he loses in tax revenue, what the economy is projected to do over those years. That's why there's a lot of chicanery in those numbers, because in those numbers is what you think the economy is going to be doing over those years as well. And if you think the economy is going to be doing a lot better because of the tax cut, like Art Laffer would say, yeah, you're going to think that it's only going to be $2.5 trillion. If you think the economy is not going to do anything or get worse, then it's going to be a lot larger. Now, having said that, Mnuchin kind of danced around that subject when he was asked about it pointedly. He said he answered in a percentage of GDP. He didn't talk about the debt going up high. He said, we are aware of the debt, but when this comes to fruition, our debt to GDP should be a lot better. That's how he got around the problem. So very interesting to hear him answer it that way because, yes, they're all smart guys. They know that it could add to the debt if we don't grow the economy. But at the same time, he's talking about what the GDP will do versus the debt, and that could be what they're hanging their hat on in this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a spend problem is essentially what he's saying. But let me just a couple of points. One, the old economist joke. I mean, in with respect to these models and these projections. What's the old economist joke that economists have predicted 8 out of the last 3 recessions? So I mean, just in terms of
Right.
modeling, particularly projecting that far out, I mean, it's like the CBO numbers on Obamacare. They're not to be trusted, or the climate change modeling that's not to be trusted as borne out. So that's number one. Number two, when did Wall Street become deficit and debt hawks? Because we got $20 trillion in debt and another $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities, and we're at Dow 21,000.
Oh, yeah, all of a sudden they care about it, right? Well, they didn't care about it when Obama doubled it after he said it was unpatriotic at $9 trillion.
Right.
So now everybody's got their eyes on it and want this tax cut to be paid for. And arguably, you can't. I mean, that's a difficult thing to do because no one knows. We don't know. We don't know. But now they're all, even his own party, are pushing back. And I just got done talking to a black cab driver about the fact that nobody could really envision everybody protesting Trump even within. So he's got a long road to hoe, and I could go on and on about the problems he's going to have because of the technology boom that we're seeing, how that's displacing workers, what that's going to do to tax receipts ultimately someday, because we can't tax robots. So he has got a huge job. I'd like to see us throw our way out of this, but I just don't think we can.
It's not what Bill Gates says about taxing robots. But here's the question. Do you think it's possible to get back to, particularly with dramatic regulatory and tax relief, is it possible to get back to 3, 4, nay, during Reagan's 7 fat years, 6% GDP growth?
He's going to need a dramatic turnaround to get to 3%. I mean, fourth quarter GDP was 3.5. First quarter GDP was 0.7. Now, there's always some seasonality there, but still, that's not good. If you think we're going to see a 3% annually, we're going to need to do a lot better than we did in the first quarter. And I tell you, the feel-good factor about keeping some of these jobs at home and seeing some of these companies reinvest here in the States, it doesn't really outweigh the fact that we are losing workers to technology every day, whether it be a kiosk, drone, or robot, and that is going to slowly but surely start to weigh on the economy. And the upper 1% are probably going to, unfortunately, or depending where you lie, are going to be the benefactors of it because we'll create wealth and we're going to, innovate. But at the same time, the middle class is the one that's going to take it on the chin.
Has Wall Street become too government centric themselves because they reacted positively to public stimulus, quote unquote, the bailouts and the $1 trillion gambits of President Obama, and they're reacting tepidly to private stimulus, meaning more money in the hands of those who can invest and generate a better return on capital?
Well, I think that if they would have gotten a little bit more detail, it would have been taken better. I think that the research has shown now that Wall Street might be leaning to the wrong side of the boat on this because they only believe that there's a 25% chance that anything good comes out of these tax cuts. So if we do get something good out of it, you could see another boost. Number two is we've seen earnings come through a lot better than expected, more like 12.5% versus the 9% expected. So we do see these companies doing better. Unfortunately, they're doing better overseas because the world economy's picked up as ours has stagnated. So there's a lot of things out there that are going to go into these tax cuts and into these numbers, not including the slowdown in consumer price index in China, which has also dampened down inflation expectations globally. So Trump's got a monumental task on his hands. It's not just him. It would have been any president in this position. And I just don't think massive tax cuts, it'll help the market, but it might not help the economy like most people are holding out.
So you were a little frustrated, I can gather, when they rolled out the tax plan. It was only one sheet?
Well, yes. I mean, I think we wanted more than that. The market definitely wanted more than that because you could tell by the way it traded right away. It's kind of already overstretched anyway. I mean, Paul Tudor Jones, who's a very well-respected individual in the industry, said that the Fed should be, and he doesn't use this word very often, terrified about how high equity prices are, with where our GDP is or where our growth is and how much things we are making and selling. So that's a problem, and we need to have those two come together in a soft manner, and that's what Wall Street's worried about, is that it doesn't happen that way. Our growth doesn't get any better, and we slowly but surely wake up to the fact that these equity prices might have really, outstretched themselves.
I like simplicity myself, not Wall Street labyrinths, but okay. I mean, I'll put off my plans to retire to Isle of Man to 2021. I hear you, Scott. Thank you very much. He's Scott Shellady, Scott the Cow Guy, Fox Business contributor.
I'll go with you, and we'll call it Isle of Men.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on our manly turnkey pro answer line.